You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Toronto Sports Rush Network, brought to you by Bet Rivers. It is Monday. My name's Kyle, and that means I am joined by Mr. Pierre McGuire. Pierre, right out of the gate here, has this Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team given up on Coach Craig Berube?
I'm not there for practice every day, and I'm not on the bench, so I don't know the interplay between the coaches and the players to player. But here's what I would tell you. This is about as disappointed as I've been in this team in a very long time. I don't believe they've quit on the coach. I think they realize that most of the answers aren't going to come from within. They have to come from outside. I believe the players see that now. They maybe gave their best, and this is what I can't stand. We had a heck of a game. We gave our best effort, meaning last night in Dallas, but yet it wasn't enough to win. It wasn't enough to win. So when you hear players say that, you know that they say, we tried our hardest, we don't have enough. And if they're saying that about their own peer, they can't be quitting on their coach. Because most guys would go surreptitiously to the media if they quit on their coach. They say, hey, the message is wrong. This guy can't get it done. We don't want to play for this guy. And usually you read that, and they're all anonymous, obviously. You haven't read that from anybody yet. But you have seen the players say, we gave everything we had. We didn't have enough. And that's why I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've seen some comments in the media between Berube and like Matthews and various others where there's like a disconnect there, but not a selling out of the other names and such. And it speaks to what we've seen with this team all year. They're simply not on the same page. You look at last night, they out-hit Dallas. They won most of the faceoffs. They outshot Dallas, which is rare for this team, and they lost 5-1. That is a tough route to go, and they didn't look particularly good against Nashville the other night. It's too late in the season to bank moral victories. Like, they played their best but lost 5-1. That's not the team we expected on the ice this year.
No, I'm really disappointed. I'll just say right now, I got it wrong. I really misjudged a lot of what they did. I'm going to be totally frank. I thought that they would bring in a little more physicality, and we've seen – like, Scott Laughton's a lot better than he was last year. It's just too bad that he didn't start the season because of a preseason injury. But now I think he's probably been their most consistent player the last 4 or 5 games at least. Dakota Joshua, after he got to be a healthy scratch, started to be the player that I thought he would be. It's too bad it took him that long. Nicky Dubois is doing exactly what I thought Nicky Dubois would do in terms of where he fits on the roster. Part of it, and we just to be transparent to our listeners, you called it, and I agree with you. John Tavares looks tired. He looks tired because he's had to overextend. He's had to overextend because there's no Mitchell Marner there. There's no electrifying power play. And so 5-on-5, he's doing a lot of 200-foot play. And at his age, he's probably better suited as an elite 3 on a Stanley Cup winning team than a 2 on a team that can't get out of their own way right now. So we've talked about it a million times. The slotting is not good enough in Toronto right now in terms of where players are playing. Their roles are discombobulated. They've lost all those players on the right side with Tanev and obviously Carlo. Those were major, major blows to them early on. Stolar's injury was a major blow. But nonetheless, that doesn't discount. Like, you got to try, man.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest Austin Matthews fan, but I got to see the give a poop meter rise. I'm a big Willie Nylander guy. I coached his dad. I respect the family a ton. Willie's better than what he's doing. So, Matthew and I, we were on this right from the start. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the Olympic talk. I don't know. He hadn't been the same player. He maybe had a 2 or 3 game spurt where he was good. He hadn't been the same player. So you look at it. You can say anything you want. They're all miscast right now, and they got to get their identity back in a hurry, or this season's going to be a waste.
We were talking with producer Tim just before we started recording today, Pierre, and he pointed out something that I think we all noticed when Austin Matthews had that shot in the slot or that moment in the slot where his stick disintegrated. He just, it's like he collapsed emotionally. And what I thought of in that moment was, this is the exact same body language Mitch Marner had on the ice when they knew Florida had beaten them in the playoffs last year. It reminded me of that instantly, and it's way too early in the season for the guy with the C on his chest to have that. That's got to be behind the scenes if you have that frustration. You can't show that on the ice.
That is such a good statement. So I'll bring you to the Scotty Bowman inevitability factor quote. I'll never forget working with Scotty early in my career, probably 1989, 1990, somewhere like that. And he said, Pierre, in every series, in every game, at every juncture of an NHL season, there's an inevitability factor. One team knows inevitably they're going to win, and one team knows inevitably they're going to lose. Whether it's like you said with Mitchell Marner in a playoff series against Florida, last night with Austin Matthews breaking his stick in the slot, inevitably he knows we're not winning. Marner knows inevitably we're not winning. You see some of the lack of second effort or third effort from this team right now, they know inevitably this isn't going to work. So how are you going to fix it? How are you going to fix it? And Kyle, you've been around it so much, and producer Tim, that was a great thing that he's brought up to us, the Matthews thing in the slot with the broken stick. The best motivator for any team isn't coach to player. It's peer to peer. It's eyeball to eyeball. It's in the room. It's identifying. It's pushing. It's prodding. It's challenging. They haven't done that. I don't believe they've done that yet. I think this team's too nice. I think they're too nice. I really do. Like, I can tell you, I've coached a lot of really good players, and I don't even call it coaching. You maintain those players that are Hall of Famers. But, dude, I'm telling you, like, when we were going through our Stanley Cup runs, the intensity and the physical and mental prodding that went on in our dressing rooms was unbelievable. And as a coach, you're almost trying to police it because you don't want to get it over the edge. I don't think that's happening in Toronto. I really don't.
You don't want it over the edge, but you want it near the edge because that's where great teams exist. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about here is peer-to-peer accountability. And if you look back at the Florida Panthers who have won the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row, that's exactly what got them over the finish line. Guys in the dressing room holding one another accountable where the coach can simply do his job and not have to babysit these people.
Oh, so well said. So spot on. You think Matthew Tkachuk is a shrinking violet?
Exactly.
Do you think he cares what he wears to the rink every day? He could care less. He's from a hockey family. He wants to win the Stanley Cup. He knows he's a villain every time he goes on the ice. He knows it. And you know what? He loves it.
He does.
He loves to know that he's a villain. He loves to drive people crazy. He loves to be the guy that makes everybody uneasy. And his teammates know that too. They do. It's amazing.
Imagine this team had a Brad Marchand right now, what he'd be saying in the locker room to them. It'd be crazy.
One of the most amazing things, think about it for 1 second. Maybe the biggest super pest in the last 15 years in the league is Brad Marchand. Every manager in the team wants him. The problem is not every playing group can handle him. Mm-hmm. So Florida, and this is the ultimate test of a manager, do you know your players better than the other teams? Do you know what fits in your room and what doesn't fit in your room? Billy Zito and his staff, along with the communication from Paul Maurice and everybody said, you know what? We're going to throw this name at you, Paul. What do you think? Can he be amalgamated into our dressing room? And so he says, I can get you Brad Marchand. Now, some coaches would say, you can't bring that son of a bee here because look our guys hate him. They won't want him around. Paul Maurice, veteran presence, been around, seen the mistakes he's made, seen the positive things he's done, says he's exactly what we need. We already got the target on Matthew Tkachuk. Everybody in the league hates him except his teammates. We bring another one of those in here? Think about what that's going to do for us. And so they bring him in. And you see that line. It's easy to remember. Luosterainen, Lundell, Marchand last year. That's why you never number your lines. In actuality, that was their third line. It may have been their most productive line because of the addition of 63 from Boston. Can you imagine? Because he came there and made them all uncomfortable. He did.
It's incredible. I want to go back to what I alluded to earlier with the disconnect in the media and certain things like that. I want to get your opinion on something because I did not like the move to take Easton Cowan out of the lineup. And when pressed about it, Craig Berube said that he's been turning pucks over too often, but he hadn't actually registered a giveaway on the stat sheet in the previous 3 games. How did you feel about him coming out of the lineup?
Didn't like it. And I don't usually disagree with Coach Berube. In fact, I will say this. I consider him a friend and somebody that I respect a lot. Basically, our paths have been the same in terms of number of years of service in the league. He more as a player, me more as a coach, obviously. But here's what I would say is young players that are potential star players like Easton Cowan is, they get a little bit more leeway to run. You know, again, I'm going to bring up the Bowman factor. I asked him about coaching a 20-year-old Guy Lafleur. And he said to me, Pierre, he had different rules than Mario Tremblay. He had different rules than Doug Riseborough. because I knew at the end of the day we needed to convince Guy that needed to be a dominant player with the puck. The other guys didn't have to be dominant. They could influence the outcome of a game another way. Easton Cowan's not going to influence the outcome of a game with hard hits or fighting or physicality. It's going to be skill, puck possession, and making the players around him better with that skill level. I would never discourage that kind of stuff, ever. And I think they've kind of done that with that player. I do.
Yeah, I feel like the way this season's going, there is absolutely no loss to keeping him on that starting roster. And if anything, let's accelerate his development so that he can hopefully fill in, because clearly they're missing a skill player with Marner being gone. It's just, I want to go back to the Nashville game on Saturday night, because something you talked about a lot with this team is moving the puck out of their own end, moving the puck into the offensive end. That first goal they scored early in the game, the Nick Waugh goal on the rush on 3-2, Robertson and McCann were there. They executed that completely perfectly. Everything about that, the way they spread out, the way they went to the net, that's what we need to see from this team, and that was the last we saw of it.
We agree.
How do they do that every once in a while and not develop any sort of consistency? It was a perfect rush. It was a perfect play.
It's hard to understand, isn't it? It really is. So I would say lack of depth. Probably who you're playing against is another thing. Nashville's not, now to be fair, Nashville started to get a little bit hot, but this is a time of the year where you don't get into the fool's goal part of the season. But I see a lot of positives still with this team, but it's just heartbreaking to see some guys just aren't competing at the level they need to. I think that's the fairest way to say it. And if they're trying to blame their coach right now, Kyle, I just have to say this with respect, because I respect every single guy that's part of the NHL fraternity. Even though I may not like them, I respect them.
Yeah.
I think there's some guys that just aren't pulling the rope hard enough right now. I really see that. I could be wrong, but that's what I see watching the games on TV.
Before I hear the comments, Pierre, I just think I just said McCann and not McMahon, but you knew what I was saying. But Pierre, you don't read the YouTube comments; these people can be relentless. But okay, so they have these. Like obviously, Jake Ottinger shut the door yesterday. He was great in a game in which the Leafs outshot, out-hit, all that stuff for Dallas. But they're just not finishing plays. Austin Matthews missed multiple breakaways this weekend. Willie Nylander shot the puck wide on a break. It's just a total disconnect across this team. And I'm done philosophizing about what could possibly correct these problems. This is a system-wide shutdown for this hockey team, and I don't know what fixed this. I don't.
Well, if they knew how to fix it, they would have already done it. So You're not alone. Seriously. You need to, in order to really understand this, because I've been on the inside with some of these situations, everybody on the outside thinks they have the right formula to fix it. Not one size fits all. There could be an injury situation we're not aware of. There could be an illness situation we're not aware of. There could be, a malfunction at the junction at somebody's house that nobody even knows about.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on over the course of an NHL season that there's people in the public eye are never privy to. That being said, that should not affect your determination, and that shouldn't affect your ability to be coached. If you don't want to be determined and you don't want to be coachable, chances are you need a different address. You shouldn't be staying in the address where you are right now. And if that's the case, that's where management needs to figure it out. Yeah. You need to decide who wants to be part of the solution and who wants to be part of the problem. Because there are some guys that definitely I'm not saying in Toronto, but there's some guys over the course of a season say, you know what? I don't want to play for this guy. I want to get out of here. I can't stand my teammates. I don't like the city. I want out. Eventually they find out. They get out.
Pierre, you know what I find interesting about this current stretch? This stretch of the most recent stretch of bad play right now actually started with that win against Chicago, where we eviscerated them after they won. They were terrible in a victory against a shorthanded Blackhawks team. And now carrying right through, they end this with a 5-1 loss. Might have been the best game they played over this stretch. We will be live tomorrow, post-game after the late afternoon game against the Penguins. And then the Ottawa, Detroit, the Devils. This schedule is not getting any easier for them. Are they going to be able to string anything? How important is this game just ahead of the Christmas break?
Tomorrow's game against Pittsburgh is critically important. Number one, because now the guys in Pittsburgh can relax a little bit, so they're going to come in loaded for bear because Crosby's already passed Lemieux.
Yeah,
that was a big, trust me, they were under the gun, and he was able to do it in Pittsburgh last night against Montreal was a major thing. I watched it. I was so happy for Sid. And also for Mario. I was texting back and forth with Mario last night. Couldn't have been more proud and excited for Sydney. So you're going to have a team that's coming in tomorrow to Toronto, footloose and fancy free. They're going to give you an A game. It may not be an A+ game, but they're going to give you an A game. You'll see. So you better be ready. That's number one. Number two, I'm so glad you brought up the Chicago thing. That game camouflaged what was ailing the Toronto Maple Leafs. We weren't wrong, Kyle. We were not wrong. That team was terrible for 45 minutes. That team was terrible. Everything the fans did to them that day, those players deserved, and the coaching staff deserved. If they don't figure out the power play and they can't figure out how to slot their players better, this thing's doomed to fail. They don't have a lot of time. They don't have much wiggle room left because teams are starting to surge. You see what's going on. Detroit's starting to surge. Ottawa's starting to surge. Philadelphia is starting to surge. I know their wild card is a different division on it, but still, now you're not talking about winning your division. You're talking about making a wild card spot. It's way different. It's way different if you're Toronto right now.
And the two teams you just mentioned, they're Detroit and Ottawa. Those are the first games after the Christmas break.
They are. The Ottawa one's going to be massive because it's in Toronto. It's on the 27th. And Kyle, the biggest thing to me, thinking about it, if Ottawa goes in, and I do every single Ottawa game, I do all their post games, and I'll tell you right now, I watch them all the time. Kachuk, Stützle, and Zetterlund. Right now, one of the top lines in the National Hockey League. Mm-hmm. Brady Kachuk is taking over games with his physicality, and Timmy Stützle is dominating with speed, skill, and playmaking ability. If they're not ready for tomorrow against Pittsburgh, and then the 27th for a really eager Ottawa Center team, this thing could come cartwheeling out of control in a hurry.
So, again, back to yesterday, 5-1 loss. And one thing that I find so demoralizing for a hockey team is when they give up an empty net goal and then give up an even strength goal after. Like, it's just like slamming the fingers in the coffin. You know what I mean? It's just to give up an even strength goal, you're basically collapsing on the ice in real time to do that. The other team at this point's gone up 4-1. Their effort's not crazy high, and they gave up another goal, even strength, after an empty netter. That's so demoralizing.
I can only go to personal experience, and I remember something like that when I was coaching in Pittsburgh. I actually wasn't coaching. I was running the pro scouting at that time, and we were playing Boston in the playoffs, and we were down 2-0 to the Bruins in the Eastern Conference Final in 1991, and we had a team meeting before Game 3. It was a day before Game 3. Joey Mullins, a New York guy, won the Cup in '89 in Calgary. He never said very much except, "Hey, how you doing?" to his teammates. He was a very quiet person. And so Bob Johnson was a coach. He said to the players, "Anybody have anything to say?" before we went into our video study. And Joey goes, "Yeah, I do." And everybody's like, "Who said that?" And they look around. And in this room, Jaromir Jagr, Mary Lemieux, Ronnie Francis, Paul Coffey, like you name it, they're there. We got a murderers role players. And Joey goes, "I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed. I've let you guys down. I went to Boston College. I've been in the league a long time. I haven't played my best. I bailed out in those 2 games. I'm going to be better." And as soon as he said that, Kevin Stevens says, "I'm really ashamed. I grew up in Boston. I played at Boston College. I know what it's like to play in that building. I played in 4 bean pots." Like, they went on. And then it was the peer pressure that took over. As coaches, we didn't have to say anything. As somebody that was running the video breakdowns, I didn't have to say a word. In fact, I don't even know if we ever went to the video. Bob might have said, "No video today. This is perfect." Yeah. We ended up winning 4 straight games because peer pressure took over. Domination of eyeball to eyeball, chest to chest, nose to nose, guys challenging one another. I wonder if that's going on in the Leaf room. I wonder if it is.
Pierre, it's like an AA meeting going around the room, but it's accountability anonymous. I long for the days where athletes felt shame because it's a big part of recovering from these stretches of poor play. It just really, really is.
So well said by you. I completely agree. And I'm not in their room. Maybe they've had these types of things, but as somebody that's been around and watched a lot, I don't think that's happened. I don't.
Okay, well let's turn this to something a little more positive, which means we're done talking about the Leafs. But I want to quickly preview something because tomorrow you have a show coming up with EJ and Dan O'Toole. We're going to preview the Canadian Olympic team, which very, very exciting. But they can tune in tomorrow for that. Right now, we've got the World Juniors kicking off Friday for Canada in a great hockey town. They're out in Minnesota. They're out in Minneapolis. Fantastic hockey town. Canada kicks off versus the Czechs. I was just wondering if you could share some fond memories of the World Juniors, because it really does hit different for us Canadians than just about anywhere else in the world.
I'll never forget the first one I broadcast in 2003 in Halifax. Jordan Tutu, Marc-Andre Fleury. Just amazing. They got to the gold medal. They lost to Alexander Ovechkin, who was 16 at the time, and a real good Russian team. But man, oh man, that set the tone for World Junior gold medal game in 2004, where they lost to the Americans. That was a team with Marc-Andre Fleury and Ryan Getzlaf and a 16-year-old Sidney Crosby. But eventually, that Canadian team, after that, 5 straight gold medals. They won in 06, they won in 07, they won in 08, they won in 9, they won in 10. So all those gold medals, pretty amazing. Like, I'm just telling you. And every time I had the privilege of broadcasting 9 straight World Junior gold medal games, I should say, and tournaments, Canada always played in the gold medal game. And the reason why is they had pride. Their coaching staffs were phenomenal. They had great leadership, and they knew they were playing for one thing more than anything else, the flag. And those guys cared so much. I will never forget 05. It's like it was yesterday. Dion Phaneuf with the 2 huge hits in the neutral zone. Corey Perry playing with Sidney Crosby and Patrice Bergeron. The shutdown capability of a guy named Shea Weber. I mean, I can go down the line. That Mike Richards, Jeff Carter. Like, you look at the lineup, it was crazy how good they were. So I have nothing but fond memories of all those World Juniors. The first time I saw the World Junior was 1989. The Russians had a line. Kyle, get a load of this. The Russians had a line of Alexander McGillney, Pavel Bure, and Sergei Fedorov. The Czechs.
Well, that was one line?
That was one line.
I don't remember. Oh, my God.
This is 1989. The Czechs had a line, Robert Reichel, Bobby Holik, Jaromir Jagr. So, that's how far back I go with this. I will never forget Forsberg and Naslin and Fusen, Germany. I will never forget Eric Lindros's domination.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Brodeur in 1990-91 in Regina and Saskatoon. You go, some of the most amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And so the World Junior is near and dear to my heart, and I can't wait for it to get going. I'm so pumped.
It's one of my favorite holiday traditions, and it's not just about Team Canada. We're seeing the future stars from all over the world.
True.
It's a preview. There's nothing quite like it in all of the rest of sports, and like yourself, Pierre, there's nothing better than sitting around the holidays as we wait for the calendar to roll over and watch that tournament go.
I just want to say this one thing. That 2010 World Olympic gold in Vancouver, people don't realize most of that team came from the World Junior teams of 03, 04, and 05. So there was a guy, everybody was marveling. He was a 20-year-old. His name was Drew Doughty. And it was like, how's this guy so good? And then you see what he performed. There was a young guy named Crosby who was drafted in 05, and he's 22 or 23 at the time, and he gets the golden goal. And you start looking at how the team came together. And all the players were at Mike Richards playing with Jonathan Taves and Rick Nash. That line was unbelievable. If you don't believe me, go watch the start of the quarterfinal game against the Russians and what happens to Sergei Gonchar in the left corner for the Russians. They put the puck in his corner and they pile drive him so bad. I don't even know if he's 100% the rest of the game. All I know is the World Junior is a precursor to everything that happens at the Olympics. So all these great Canadians that are going to be on the roster that we're going to see probably announced December 31st, January 1st, they all came from the World Junior, or most of them did. I love the World Junior. I think it's unbelievable.
Me too. It's such a pure form of hockey. And of course, just reminding everyone once again, tomorrow Pierre will be with EJ Raddick and Dan O'Toole doing an Olympic team preview just ahead of the roster announcements, and join Pierre and I live immediately following the Penguins Maple Leafs game tomorrow as we dissect what I hope is a better performance. For now, McGuire Monday is over. Pierre, thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.